Beautiful, Duffy. Gorgeous. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yesterday in the New York Times, big article, the American middle class is no longer the world's richest. Congratulations, everybody. We made it to third world America. It's really creepy. It creeps me out because I'm always right, and it just freaks me out because I don't want to be right if loving you is wrong. However, I am, and what's really amazing is that I said years ago that I could see what we were doing, and what we were doing was we were swapping places with India and China, and that the American multinational, whatever you want to call them, I mean, I don't even know, they're corporate citizens. What are they? That they had decided that there were 1 billion people in China. They have a brand new middle class that was starting to emerge there, and now they're there. And India as well, 1 billion people. Who would be the new consumers of the world? So who was going to be the labor? Who was going to be the slave labor? Who was going to work for, bupkis? Who was going to work for nothing? Who was going to work for, $1 an hour? And, whenever you need an egg timer, there's never one around. And the Republicans just chimed in. We don't need a minimum wage. We should do away with the minimum. This is going to be the next fight. Just write that down, that I said that too. The next fight's going to be to do away with the minimum wage. And the Supreme Court, as it's currently made up, will say that, that was then, this is now. We don't need no stinking minimum wage. And as I kept on trying to explain to you how every time I would see a signpost that was telling me that we were, either stagnating or losing ground, and that we were going to be not consumers anymore, but we were going to be wage slaves, and that the new consumers of the world would be over there in India and China, people would just, scream at me and tell me I was, I was crazy or listen, I wish I were. I truly wish I were. But here's the, here's the New York Times yesterday. The American middle class, long the most affluent in the world, has lost that distinction. While the wealthiest Americans are outpacing many of their global peers, the New York Times analysis shows that across the lower and middle income tiers, citizens of other advanced countries have received considerably larger raises over the last 3 decades. After-tax middle-class incomes in Canada, substantially behind in 2000, now appear to be higher than in the United States. The poor in much of Europe earn more than the poor in America. That is breathtaking. We haven't even gotten into the rest of this 6-page article. That's just, it gives me chills how evil and unholy these policies have been for the American people. And, we have a Congress that just refuses to prioritize the way FDR and his Congress did. We just don't have a Congress that is willing to stand up for the American people anymore. We have a Congress that will only stand up for the corporate person. We created a new class of people. Corporations, they're people too. They have all these rights now. They have everything but the right to vote. Okay, they have the right to free speech if they can pay for it. They have the right to decide what goes into your body. They have a right to drug test you. They have a right to decide what contraception. Well, we'll find out what Hobby Lobby. I mean, it's going to be in June, but I'll be watching that. Think of me that day too. But we're just trying to figure out whether the board of directors gets to say that their religion is supreme to yours, so that if you decide that the way that you want to control or plan your family is through contraception, you will not be able to do that under their health care plan. You will either have to go buy a separate health care plan just to pay for your well-woman visits or your contraception or, whatever it is that you use hormones for, and it'll be out of your pocket, or you'll have to buy another policy because their religion will be supreme to yours. Their tax policies, they don't work. They don't work. These numbers are based on surveys that have been conducted over the last 35 years for all you people going, yeah, Obama did this. Bite me. Obama can't do anything without Congress. Nothing. He can't spend a nickel without Congress. And this has been going on for 35 years. Something evil and unholy. This is some of the most detailed, publicly available comparisons for different income groups in different countries over time. And these numbers suggest that most American families are paying a very steep price for this rising and very high-level income inequality. Here's what it says. It says in many other countries, a small percentage of American households. Oh, it says that although economic growth in the United States continues to be as strong or stronger than many other countries, only a small percentage of American households is benefiting from it. Median income in Canada pulled into a tie with median income in the United States in 2010 and has surpassed it since then. Median incomes in Western European countries still trail those in the United States, but the gap in several, including Britain, the Netherlands, and Sweden, is much smaller than it was 10 years ago. In European countries hit hardest by the recent financial crisis, like Greece and Portugal, incomes, of course, have fallen sharply in recent years. This comes from the Luxembourg Income Study Database, LIS it's called. They say the struggles of the poor in the United States are even starker than those in the middle class. A family in the 20th percentile of the income distribution in this country makes significantly less money than a similarly situated family in Canada, Sweden, Norway, Finland, or the Netherlands. 35 years ago, the reverse was true. It says the United States has maintained its lead as the world's richest economy, but those numbers are averages and did not capture the distribution of income. With a big share of recent income gains in this country flowing to a relatively small slice of high-earning households, most Americans are not keeping pace with their counterparts around the world. Lawrence Katz, a Harvard economist who was not associated with LIS, looked at the numbers and said, in 1960, we were massively richer than anyone else. In 1980, we were richer. In the 1990s, we were richer, and that is no longer the case. Median per capita income is $18,700 in the United States in 2010, which translates to about $75,000 for a family of four after taxes, up 20% since 1980, but it's been virtually unchanged since 2000. The same measure, by comparison, rose about 20% in Britain between 2000 and 2010, rose 14% in the Netherlands between 2000 and 2010, and it rose 20% in Canada between 2000 and 2010, an equivalent of $18,700. The most recent year in the LIS analysis is 2010. Other income surveys conducted by government agencies suggest that since 2010, pay in Canada has risen faster than pay in the United States. Okay, why? Whenever you read this, you say, oh, those are facts. Why is it like this? Well, there are three factors that appear to be driving much of the weak income performance in the United States. First, education. Gee, affirmative action is, it's just god-awful, right? Educational attainment in the United States has risen far more slowly than in much of the industrialized world over the last 30 years. Here's something. People my age, Americans between the ages of 55 and 65 have literacy, numeracy, and technology skills, believe it or not, that are above average relative to 55 to 65-year-olds in the rest of the industrialized world. This is a study that was done by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD. You'll see that, right? Okay. Younger Americans are not keeping pace. Those between 16 and 24 rank near the bottom among rich countries, well behind their counterparts in Canada, Australia, Japan, Scandinavia. We rank close to young people in Italy and Spain in educational attainment and in literacy, numeracy, and technology skills. No child's behind is left. not No Child Left Behind. No Child Behind was left untouched by Bush, okay? The second factor is that companies that we work for distribute a much smaller share of their bounty, their profits, to their workers, to the middle class and to the poor than similar companies elsewhere. The top executives here make substantially more money in the United States than they do in other developed countries. The minimum wage is lower here than it is in other developed countries, and labor unions are weaker here than they are in other developed countries. And because the total amount produced by our economy has not been growing faster here than it's growing in Western Europe or Canada, most American workers are receiving meager raises. And finally, it has to do with the government, okay? Governments in Canada, governments in Western Europe, they take much more aggressive steps to keep the take-home pay of their low and middle income households up by redistributing income through their tax codes. Welcome, everybody. The race to the bottom. Ooh, my coccyx bone hurts. I fell so hard. 866-87-RANDY. That is us. 866-877-2634. 19 after.
Randi Rhodes.
Fearless. Honest. Real. This is The Randi Rhodes Show.
Hi, Phoenix. Call me right now at 866-87-RANDY. 866-877-2634. This is The Randi Rhodes Show on 1480 KPHX.
The economy needs the certainty of the extension of the current tax rates.
Stopping the looming tax hikes will help job creators.
Don't raise taxes on small businesses because there are job creators.
We have got this tailspin of culture in our inner cities in particular of men not working and just generations of men not even thinking about working or learning the value and the culture of work. And so there's a real culture problem here that has to be dealt with.
It's a real union-busting tax code problem. It's a real policy problem. It's a refusal to do a jobs package. It's a refusal to do another stimulus. It's a refusal to do any infrastructure repair. It's this Congress that will do absolutely nothing in the face of us literally becoming a third world country. And trust me, if I read it in the New York Times, every member of Congress either read it or had it read to him in Congress, because some of our Congress members, they're not so good at reading, except for checks. They're very good at reading numbers on the checks. You know, I got to tell you, and this is exactly what the big money wants. The big money wants us to trade places. They want us to trade places as the most awesome middle class, the most awesome consumer-driven economy in the history of mankind ever known on the planet. That's us. That's who we were. I can't even say it's who we are because we're not anymore. We're not number one anymore. We're not number one in middle-class wealth. We're not number one in job creation. We're not number one in education. We're not number one in math or science or even infant mortality. We are third world. We are literally in a race to the bottom, and we've gotten there, and I've fallen on my coccyx bone. You know how much that hurts? Almost as much as when you ride a boy's bike and you fall on the bar. Wow. Oh, yeah, man, you think you're the only one. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, we laugh. No, and this Congress is enjoying it. That's why they don't lift a finger to stop it, rectify it. They've been doing everything they can to speed it up. It's Lucy in the Candy Factory. And that's what you're going to have to get used to if you're a conservative. I mean, you're all black now. Lee in Honolulu.
Hey, Randy, how you doing with this?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Randy?
Why do you talk like that?
I'm just kidding around. It's from New York.
Oh.
Well, you know, it's like the Supreme Court. I was going to ask, do you think the Supreme Court get Koch brother money?
I know that Clarence Thomas's wife, Ginny, she has a Tea Party group that made money.
Yeah, right. And Koch brother money. I just wondered if Scalia and the other ones are actually getting bribed to make these decisions they're making.
Well, I mean, just about everything's legal now, so.
Yeah, maybe if it's under the table or over the table.
Yeah, how would we know?
Yeah, I just didn't know if anybody ever audited them. Would that be an impeachable offense
if they
were caught?
Yeah.
Well, it probably won't happen in our lifetime.
No.
Hey, Randy, I got to ask you something. This thing you're doing, this quitting, this thing you're doing.
This thing I'm doing.
Would it be possible for you to change your mind? I mean, theoretically, you could change your mind?
No, it's done.
You mean the matchbooks are already printed?
The matchbooks are already printed? Yes, it's like the wedding. Exactly. The napkins are done. It's done. There's napkins.
All right. Well, I'm just going to say, I just hope there's someday that, some little kid doesn't ask their mommy, whatever happened to Randi Rhodes? And say, well, honey, she didn't pack the gear. She quit.
Oh, she retired.
Well,
I did my 30 years, dear.
Do you think you could take us to the midterm, the most important midterm since, 1789?
They're all important.
This one, we really need you.
So was the last one. Let me tell you why the last one was more important. To tell the one that we're having now, the one in 2014, will decide whether or not you give a Congress to this president who could be the most awesome president for middle-class working people that since FDR. Okay, that's what's in play here. Or you don't, and you waste one of the most awesome presidents that we have had since FDR, since Bill Clinton, who made a couple of mistakes that really peeved me. But okay, but the 2010 election, that was the most important one. That's right, because that was a redistricting election. That was a census year. Just remember, any year that ends in a 0 is a census year. Okay, every 10 years they redraw these maps. And that's why some people who will vote won't have any choices on their ballot because people looked at the district, realized it was gerrymandered, and didn't even run as a Democrat against an incumbent Republican. That's the sad truth. You don't even, we kid ourselves. We're a democracy, and then you'll go to the ballot, and there won't even be anybody on it to vote against the incumbent.
I just wish there was word.
A cut in unemployment benefits takes hold, making it even tougher for those who are out of work.
There's still a lot of people looking for work and not enough jobs to go around.
Sam Janicki is one of 355,000 Michiganders who can't find work.
Financially, next month's it. I'm done.
Sandra's unemployment payments are set to run out soon. Whenever she can afford the gas to make it into town, she spends her day here at the Colorado Workforce Center in Montrose, searching desperately.
You feel like a failure, and you feel like the biggest loser that walked the face of the earth.
There you have it, the Republican plan for working Americans. End unemployment benefits at a time of very long-term unemployment. Don't do a jobs package. Cut food stamps. Redistribute the wealth to the top 1% through the tax code. In fact, Ryan's budget is so blatant about what would happen to the middle class.
Well, you only have to look at the Republican budget, the latest Ryan budget, that makes middle-class families pay an additional $2,000 in taxes and cuts $200,000 in taxes for millionaires. And so their policies really speak for themselves. Cuts in Medicare, in education, in Head Start. I mean, the list is long, and that goes right at the heart of the middle class. Not only do we not want education benefits anymore for middle-class families, but also not extending unemployment benefits, a budget that says we're going to reward the millionaires, and we're going to punish people who just get up and try to get up every single day and go to work for a living.
Exactly. This is the budget. This is the priority. And what a budget is. A budget is nothing except a roadmap of the nation's priorities. And the priorities of the Republican Party are to kill unemployment. They were successful in doing that. Cut money out of food stamps. You know, they want to cut the whole food stamp program. The whole thing is $80 billion. And there's $83 billion in subsidies going to banks. Because they're too big to fail, we have to subsidize them so that they don't fail. We have to actually pay them not to fail. I mean, it's so sick. And the amount of money that goes to just one sector, the banks, is greater than the entire cost of the entire food stamp program that feeds 47 million people, seniors, disabled, veterans, children, 22 million kids. I mean, 1 million veterans are on food stamps. That is a sin. But those are their priorities, and they're very good at getting their things done. Unemployment has been cut, and at the beginning, 3 days after Christmas, when they started to cut, 1.3 million people lost their unemployment benefits. That number is now up to almost 2.5 million people. They're trying to kill Obamacare, and we know 9.5 million people that didn't have insurance now do have insurance, and they want to cut Medicaid, which would, scale back that number. They want to cut Medicare and turn it into a voucher program. So somebody my age will never get Medicare. I would get a $6,000 voucher a year to go buy a health insurance plan that at my age costs more than $6,000 a year. So there's no way I would ever see Medicare. That's also in their sights. They decimated Head Start, and they're not done with it. They want to get rid of the Department of Education. They've gotten rid of affirmative action. They've said let the white people vote on whether or not they want affirmative action in their states. They won't do a jobs package. They won't invest in our infrastructure. And then you see articles come out that say that the U.S. middle class is no longer the most affluent middle class in the world, that we're, running like we're playing third, fourth, fifth fiddle to other countries. Canada has surpassed us. Minimum wage here, it just isn't high enough for people to make a living wage, and a lot of people are living off of that. And they say that we don't get our young kids aren't able to get the education that we were able to get because of the student loan program, because of the interest rates they charge, because of the mere fact that their parents lost all their wealth in a housing crisis, which was caused by the banks that we are now subsidizing, to the tune of the entire cost of the food stamp program. I mean, this is a very sick society in which we toil, but this is what the Republicans have in mind for you, obviously, because they've achieved it over the last 10 years. They have been steadily working at doing away with anything that would benefit somebody in the middle class, anything that would benefit somebody who's trying to grab onto a ladder, to see a door open, to grab an opportunity that might come their way. They're not interested. They want the race to the bottom because they need us to work for cheap, real cheap, dirt cheap, like prison labor cheap, like that cheap, which, by the way, we are currently competing with. You've got prisoners in this country who are doing labor for 2 cents an hour. It actually exists. It really is happening. And their budget, when they put out their budget, they are telling you, it's in your face, what their priorities are. And their priorities are not unemployed. Their priorities are not employed who are working their tails off but can't, listen, $30,000 a year for two people who make $15,000 a year, working 2 minimum wage jobs ain't going to cut it. It's just that you're not going to be able to, you're just not going to be able to pay your bills. There's no way $30,000, doesn't actually pay for what it costs to live in modern day America. It won't cover child care. It won't cover rent. It won't cover transportation. It won't cover gas for your car or bus fare. It's not going to cover food. It's not, it won't make it. There's no way. And everybody's sitting there thinking other people are doing it. They're not doing it. Other people aren't doing it. Other people are either taking advantage of Medicaid, or they're because you can't afford health care, right? And you get sick and then you're wiped out. I mean, you're already wiped out. Americans have no savings. Very few of us have savings. Very few. So this was their agenda, and they're very good at doing it. And now, of course, they want to mobilize white voters who have been alienated by civil rights reforms so that they will go out and they will vote against things that help people who, listen, the great wrongs that have been done against entire populations of segments of our population, they're not unknown. They're not unknown. Everybody knows what those great wrongs were. Everybody knows what the great wrong of slavery is. Everybody knows what the great wrong of Reconstruction was. Everybody knows what the great wrong of Jim Crow laws were. Everybody knows why we needed a Civil Rights Act. Everybody knows why we needed a Voting Rights Act of 65. Everybody, my age has lived through the pre and the post. We all know. And now we're back in post again. We're back to square one on a whole host of issues. Just remember this, all civil rights come from the 14th Amendment. Every single thing that has been designed to give equality to women, or designed to give equality to gays and lesbians, or designed to give equality to African Americans, all comes from the 14th Amendment. Because those are new classes of citizens that did not exist before the 14th Amendment, did not exist before the 13th Amendment, did not exist in the Bill of Rights. They did not have equal rights. They did not have citizenship, basic citizenship they didn't have. And so all civil rights come from, and they are hacking away at it, just literally hacking away at it. It's like the white supremacists who really, seriously said the South's going to do it again are winning. It's an amazing thing to watch. It's heartbreaking, but it's an amazing thing to watch. We've got an economy that is just so fixable. That's the crazy part. It's
like they've been smart in the past, and maybe they'll vote right this time. Maybe they'll vote what they need to vote for this time. I just hope so.
Well, you know, I've been doing this for a really, really long time, and
I know.
And I got to tell you that there are they're just midterm elections. Just people don't. They just don't. And it's, you know, the base of the parties are the ones that do. And frankly, when the base of our party sits it out and the base of their party shows up, this is what you get. And the reason why the conservatives are doing, you know, this Clyde and Bundy story and this affirmative action ruling and the voting rights, you know, turning it back and all this stuff is because they want the base of the party, these rabid white supremacists, these seriously, bigoted,
but how come
prejudiced.
they don't call Bundy a taker? Why don't they call Bundy a taker? He's a taker.
Because they have never met anybody who hates the government that couldn't be made into a friendly.
Yeah.
And the reason is because the government seriously exists to promote the general welfare of the people, and that has got to stop. They don't want the general welfare of the people promoted. They don't want anything that would, you know, help even themselves, because they have for 30 years pitched this thing that the government is not here to help you. The government is your enemy. That's what Reagan started, and they have been doing for 30 years. That's why wages have been stagnant for 30 years. That's why we haven't seen an increase in tipped wages in 30 years. That's why we see a reversal to pre-civil rights era policies. It's not because the war was won. It's because they want the war to stop.
Well, I just hope you take care of yourself and you do whatever it is you need to do, and I am going to miss you tremendously.
Well, thank you. I'll miss you, too. 48 after.
Randi Rhodes.
Freedom of speech. Deal with it. This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
Join us online at 1480kphx.com. This is Progressive Radio in Phoenix, 1480 KPHX. Whenever I see a celebrity with perfect, smooth, hair-free skin, I always want to know how they do it. So I asked some of my friends, and they gave me an insider secret for getting very smooth skin without any hassle. They use No Pro. Celebrities, models, they have been tossing their razors and expensive salon treatments and switching to No Pro for weeks, not days, weeks of long-lasting results. Literally the best way to remove unwanted hair without any pain, whether it's your legs, arms, bikini line, face, you name it. And guys, it's great for your chest and back, whatever. You will love how easy this is to use, but you'll especially love the professional results that you get all from home. I'm telling you, ditch the razors, ditch the salon treatments, switch to No Pro. You will be absolutely thrilled. No Pro comes with a 100% 60-day money-back guarantee. Plus, when you purchase, No will give you a $50 gift card to a dermatologist-recommended and award-winning skincare line, plus a free travel case. Go to TalkNono.com, get these free gifts. TalkNono.com, TalkNono.com.
Turn down the noise, turn up your mind with Randi Rhodes on Premier Radio Networks. When you
increase the extended period for which people can get unemployment benefits, one of the things you do is, of course, help them. We've never had such high long-term unemployment rates for so long, and every time we have had rates anywhere near what they are today, Congress has extended such benefits. So it's unprecedented for them to cut the rug out. But that's at the micro level. As you correctly point out, at the macro level, there are multiplier effects, because guess what? Unemployed folks go out and spend the money, and that helps on the growth side. To answer your question, I mean, I thought Congresswoman Edwards said it quite eloquently. There is a real serious lack of consciousness, lack of empathy, lack of understanding. The idea that you can kind of walk in the other guy or gal's shoes and understand what middle and low-income people are going through is very foreign to many of these members, while they seem to be extremely tuned into what millionaires need.
It is amazing how they hear the millionaires so clearly. They know exactly what they want. These are the conversations you hear in the hallways of Congress where, you know, I've walked and been. This is what you hear in the cloakroom. This is what you hear at the fundraisers. This is what you hear at the Washington parties. This is what you see when they get together. You hear all about what the billionaires want now. It's not even millionaires. It's billionaires. You hear all their concerns and all of their wish lists and all of their to-do lists and all of their bucket lists and everything that they hope to do to this country, and I mean to do to it. Last tranches of money, the Medicare Trust Fund, the Social Security Trust Fund, they want to privatize it. They want the tax code and how they want to lower corporate tax rates, to like 9%. Remember Herman Cain's 999, which means you would pay the same thing as a multinational corporate. I mean, the whole thing. You hear everything about what they want, what they're interested in, what their agenda is. You just don't see a lot of working people up there saying, I feel like I'm in a hole with no way out. And quite frankly, there's a prescription pill epidemic going on over here, or over there in Vermont, there's a heroin epidemic going on over here, or over here it's like people are getting life sentences for nonviolent crimes having to do with drugs. Life sentences for nonviolent crimes. And then you have the nerve to stand there and say, why is the nuclear family being disrupted in places where people have mandatory minimum drug sentencing that could sentence them to life in prison for having a joint for the third time? What, like you've never had a joint 3 times in your life on your person? That's life in prison for some people. And then you're going to sit there and you're going to say, well, there's been an erosion of the family. Or look at all these black people in prison. It must be a character defect instead of a policy defect. There's something wrong with them instead of there's something wrong with mandatory minimums, or there's something wrong with privatizing the prison system and, you only make money when your beds are full. Then you lobby the government for even more arrests on more nonviolent crimes. There's something wrong when everyone in America is armed, but the Bureau of Land Management, who has to go into these armed camps, have to disarm themselves to make the armed people happy. The whole thing is ass backwards. And I mean ass backwards. That's how you're going to fall. When you hit the bottom, it's going to sound just like the bottom of a candy machine. You're going to hear a big doosh. They can't wait.